Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. 4 ways to develop a wealth mindset. We're talking about today, Jim. How important is mindset? I mean, I
Everything.
think anything you're trying to apply yourself to, your mindset has to
Yeah,
be in the right
absolutely,
place. But
absolutely. It will determine everything for how successful you are at anything. Um, that's ultimately what it comes into.
yeah,
If you can believe it, you can achieve it, but you have to take action to do that.
yeah,
Um, if you can't believe it, you're absolutely well. The classic example is I'm sure it's Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, actually used to say it. If you believe that you can't do it, you're absolutely right. And if you believe that you can do it, you're absolutely right. It is, that's the reality. Good afternoon, Gary. How are you? Um,
yeah. Afternoon, Gary.
any questions, please feel free to ask. Now, remember, as always, I'll start at the beginning and say any questions. If it fits into what we're doing right now, then we'll answer that question there and then. If it doesn't, then we'll leave it to the end and we will go through the questions on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn as well, and on Twitter. We're happy to go through all these questions when everybody wants in order to give them the right information.
Yeah,
I think that's the key here. Richard,
yeah.
4 ways to develop mindset. What's your thoughts on this initially then?
Yeah, I think obviously perhaps maybe the biggest misconception with being wealthy or when it comes to wealthy is that people just think people with millions of pounds in the bank are wealthy. And that's kind of really, it's quite far from the actual truth when it
Yeah.
comes to what actual wealthy is. We've done a show and we spoke extensively before about the difference between being rich and wealthy. And I
Hmm.
think that's where you need to get that correct in your mind about what wealthy actually is. And if you ask several different people to define wealth, you'll probably get you'll probably get a different response from each of them because
Hmm.
a lot of people think of it in different ways.
Wealth for me is basically your assets minus your liabilities. That's your net worth. That's really what wealth is. I know we've done it before and we've talked about wealth as well. What about your family and your friends and all the rest of it? It's like, no, we're talking about hard cash at this point in
Yeah,
time.
we're talking about that kind of wealth. Yeah.
Pounds, pounds, shillings, and pence, if that makes any sense. That's what we're here for. I don't care what anybody says to this, but the reality is, without money, you can't do anything. Literally, yeah, you can go for a walk and it doesn't cost you anything to do it, and you could argue that principle, but that's not going to solve your financial problems because you have to buy a house, you have to rent a house, you have to eat food, you have to pay money to do that. Anything goes wrong with you health wise, you're either going to use the NHS or if you're in a different country, or if you're wanting to do it quicker, you'll be doing private healthcare. This all costs money. If you want to help your community, guess what? You can volunteer, fair enough, and give your time. But the reality is, pounds, shillings, and pence is what most people want. This is
Yeah.
why we talk about developing the 4 ways to develop a wealth mindset and how you do that. So this is key. This is a complete masterclass. Again, and we come back to saying this is based on my personal experience and how I've managed to go from homeless and unemployed to retire financially free at 38-year-old. Now 17 years on, I think it is 17, 18, maybe 19, 19. 19 years maybe coming up for 19 years, holy shit. 19 years on, I've kind of reached the dizzy heights of the top 1% in Britain in terms of
Mhm.
wealth. I couldn't care less about top 1% in terms of earnings. All I care about is wealth. That's
Yeah.
it. Earnings cost you money, you have to pay tax on it. Wealth is where it's at. You could earn as much as you want, but you could still be what we call as broke at a different level. In other words, all your spending. I noticed somebody recently, they're away on holiday and they've just started in their business and they're away on holiday and it's like, holy shit, they're in business class already. And like, my God, talk about just throwing caution to the wind. I would be investing and squirreling all that money away and actually investing it in for my future and where I am now. And that's not the thing to do. Just spend for today and forget about tomorrow. It's actually about investing and getting that mindset. How do we get that mindset? What it's all about? What is it all about, Richard?
Yeah, I think just to touch on that, Jim, a lot of people say, "Oh, money can't buy you happiness," but I think money and
Have you
wealth could
tried
put
it
you,
lately?
and they could get you
Because I
to a
tell you what, it goes
position,
a long way to it.
but they could put you in a really comfortable position where you can be happy without any of the stresses of what having no money does cause. But I think if you want to be wealthy, you need to think like the wealthy, and start defining your financial goals is a really
Yep.
important thing. How much money do you want to have maybe in a year's time or 5 years' time? Do you know, we talk about setting goals. Think of that number. Think of where you want to be in a year's time or in 5 years' time,
Now,
and keep
can
that
I just
number in your
stop you
mind.
here? Can I just stop you here and say to you, if anybody's tuning in, you are tuning in, I know you're tuning in. If you're listening to this at this point in time, you say, I've heard this all before. Did you actually do something about it though? That's the
And
point.
repetition is
Because
to keep with.
I used to go to every single function, and I used to talk to my mentors all the time. And they used to go, you've got to define a goal. You've got to say how much money you want in a year's time. You've got to say how much, what do you want in 5 years' time? And I'm like, I've heard this all before.
But never actually actioned it.
And it's like, exactly. This says, have you done anything about it though? And it's like, well, no, really.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've been here before. I know how everybody feels. I felt exactly the same way. I thought, I've heard this all before. Why do I need to listen to you again? Because you're still bloody skint. That's why.
Yeah.
You've not got two halfpennies to rub together because you don't understand. You're still in that mindset. You're still stuck where you are. This is what this is all about. So some people are going to resonate with this. They're going to go, this is my moment. Because that's what happens at functions. We used to be at functions and people used to go, the person, the speaker from the stage just spoke to me. It was just like they were speaking to me. And I thought, that's your point of readiness. That is where your preparation has taken place over all these years and the opportunity has appeared. And that message actually you heard because you were ready to hear that message right now. So some people will hear this and they'll resonate with that straight away and go, this is my moment. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it. I'm going to blow this out of the water. I'm going to be financially free in the next 20 years or whatever it is, or the next 10 years. That's entirely possible as well, by the way, and even the next 5 years. You've got to have that. You've got to have that mindset, but you've got to have unwavering faith in yourself, in your abilities, and you've got to have almost blind faith it's going to happen for you at some point in time if you just keep chipping away at it. And I mean chipping away, and it's like the typical example of this is the boulder. You know, the boulder, the big massive boulder was in front of this wee stream. And what was happening is it had stopped all the water coming from the stream and it was damming it all up behind it. Now, the village actually needed this water for the village itself because it powered some of the hydro stuff and it also gave the community with some fresh water. And somebody went up one day and they went and hit this big massive boulder to try and get rid of it. Now, they had this big sledgehammer and they were hammering away at it and it was on about the 50th hit. And eventually, the people in the village started to, there's no point, just forget it. We're going to have to do something else. We're going to have to think about something else because this isn't going to happen. And the guy went, no, I'm not giving up at the 50th. He says, I'm going to hit it one more time. So he hit it one more time with an almighty crack came. And it started to crack. And he went, wow. And then he hit it again. And the boulders fell in two after 52 hits. Now, my point out of this was it the 50 hits before it allowed it to happen at the 51st? Or was it the 51st hit? It could have been the first hit. It might have made it happen because he's hit in the right place. In my opinion, I think it was the 50 hits before it actually managed to do it in the 51st and 52nd. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the 50 hits leading up to that have over time, obviously, they've got the boulder obviously then eventually move. And I think what you say is there, Jim.
We do because we talk about that, and that's why I talk about it to everybody. And I keep saying, and I have said it before in the past, and I'm not saying it lately. Every single day when you get up, just keep swinging for the fence.
Yeah.
Just keep swinging for the fence every single time. And it's a baseball term. And at some point in time, that baseball will hit with that baseball bat. It'll hit that bat, and it'll go right over that fence. But you'll never do anything if you don't swing for the fence.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I think
will
as
ever
well
happen.
that the people that obviously are regular watchers and things will think maybe, oh, they cover a lot of the same topics just in different contexts each week and things. But these are all the fundamental parts of wealth creation, and that's why we do maybe repetitively cover the similar things, maybe just in a different context.
To be honest, Richard, I'll let you into a secret, okay? I'm going to let you into a secret. I'm not really bothered if anybody's watching because what we're discussing right now is what teaches me and reinforces what I know it even gets me motivated to do even more and learn more as a result of what we're doing right now. So whether anybody else is tuning in or not, I couldn't care less. It's up to them to do that for themselves. So I'm learning every single day. And this is another thing that people don't realize about the mindset and this wealth mindset is you have to have that sort of attitude that you're going to learn from something every single day and just learn something new. Every day is a school day.
Yeah.
You ever heard that before? Well, it's true. It's like, you don't stop learning when you finish school. When I finished school, I was like, my God, if I don't read another book ever again, it'll be too soon. That's how I felt about reading books at school. And then my mentor sat me down and said, do you know you will be in the next 5 years by the books you read and the people you associate with? Boy, did I start reading the right books. Straight away in a flash. Anyway, let's carry on.
Yeah. So I was saying there about obviously setting goals and looking at what kind of figure you would like to achieve, maybe over whether it's a year, whether it's 5 years. But ultimately, if you want to start seeing a penny of that money, really, you need to develop a wealth mindset. And
It is a wealth mindset. And somebody actually says to me, how do you start with no money? That's exactly it. I started homeless, unemployed, zilch, zero money, and zero education actually. So because I came out with 4.0 grades and a passable higher in maths. That was it really from school. But apart from that, I was homeless, unemployed, and no real skills in anything. From when that happened, because I was a window cleaner before, so there was nothing skillful about doing that, and it was either I stuck with these jobs for the rest of my life, or I did something about it and actually began to develop my skills in order to make more money. That's how you start with no money. You do that, you develop your skills, and then that's why people will pay you even more money for what you've got and the experience and wisdom you've gained, and also the knowledge that you know. It's your education will get you so far in life, but it's your attitude which will determine your altitude about where you go next after that. Because most people really don't need a glorified education over and above university unless you're specializing in some particular subject. Other than that, you could learn all you can without going to that in the university of life. And I don't mean going down the pub and getting pissed every weekend and talking to people and and doing things like that. But I mean in terms of from people that are far more successful than you in the particular field that you want to learn, and even to the point of actually becoming a student of that person without them actually knowing it. I mean, there's loads of people and loads of mentors out there that I see in billion-dollar companies that I actually listen to their podcasts and that and learn from them new skills and new techniques. Now, that never stops. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
No, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, people do have a lot of different goals, and whether that's chasing material things, or they're looking for financial independence, or just for like we said, that freedom that having a significant amount of money gives you. The human desire, obviously, for riches and things is like no other. But the road to wealth, obviously, like we said, can be bumpy, and it's filled with some misconceptions. So we're going to cover a few topics today, which I'll hopefully kind of clarify that.
So this is how a wealth mindset matters. Okay.
Yeah.
Take for an example. I know this self because I deal with the American market quite a bit. I mean, 60% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. So does Britons as well. Most people actually just live from paycheck to paycheck. And it's only going to get worse when they consider the rising levels of credit card debt is incorporated into that as well. How easy access to debt is as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a few credit cards, and it was only just because I thought I'm going to get points and I'm going to earn stuff on the credit card rather than doing anything else. And all of a sudden, I've got £100,000 in credit I could have whenever I want. I could literally buy a flat.
It's amazing what they offer you. I know.
And that's so simple to do. In terms of that, so when somebody says, "How do you get money?" It's like folk are just throwing it at you. You've got a fantastic credit rating, and if you know how to use that, the debt that you can acquire, because this is what it's all about. The debt you can acquire in order to make more money on that debt, then that's when your quid's in. Because we're always taught, don't get into debt. Yeah. It's like, okay, there's debt, there's astronomical debt, which is 29%. But there's also debt that's like really low cost, and you could actually make a really good return on that money by leveraging your position and making it easier for you.
I was just going to say that you mentioned about Americans there, and credit's quite a common thing, and it has been for a long time over there. They kind of live on credit and credit cards things, but it's common here as well now. Do you know what I mean? Credit cards. I mean, everybody's, and like you say, they're enticed by this. Oh, you've got this limit on a card, and they just spend on it with no real thought process on how am I going to clear that off, or I'm just going to sit. Yeah. And the high interest rates then catches them.
It's like we live in a society like what we're on here right now, these platforms, which encourage us to get things now, to reward ourselves now, to distract us every single time. These are distractions, these platforms. And the point is, you've got to decide whether the right knowledge and information is useful, what you're watching, or is it just no use to you? Then don't watch it anymore. Don't interact with it anymore. They're very addictive platforms for that reason, to get you, and then for people to sell you stuff. That's what it's all about. That's what they're after.
Yeah, and a lot of people using credit cards and things engage in impulsive spending behaviours and wasting money and on items and things that they don't really need. Do you know, people purchase things or think, oh, I want that, but do you really need it? Well, I mean, we spoke about that before.
I did it at the weekend. I did it exactly the weekend. You don't know. I'm just about to tell you I'm going on holiday.
What was that?
I did it the weekend. I looked at my app and I went 10 degrees, Spain, 25 degrees, to hell with it. Easter week it is in Spain. So literally at the weekend I just booked, we're going to Spain for the week and Easter.
But you're in that position where you can do that now. Whereas like you could do impulsive things like that because do you know what I mean? You're at that different stage in your journey.
I'm very lucky, but then you could determine luck as L for labour under correct knowledge. That's what luck is effectively. Labour under correct knowledge. People say you're lucky. Well, you think there's a degree of luck, but it's actually just preparing yourself every single time for when the opportunity appears, and it just so happens you're there. That's what luck is really, in essence.
Yeah, and I think the available credit on credit cards and things like that, and then this kind of spending behaviour, it can create a vicious kind of cyclone of debt. And with interest rates and things, it's very difficult to escape that as well. So that's something to really be cautious of.
It seems the ability to attain wealth and the basics of wealth mindset is actually a lost art. I talked to Ian this morning because I go and walk about in my thinking time in the morning, and I was actually telling him, you know, a lot of this stuff is actually not taught anymore. People don't talk about it. We get into this home to work routine most of the time. The hamster wheel. You know, you're on that wheel every single time. You get up on, you know. It used to be the wheel. The wheel I used to decide. I used to determine the wheel is. Songs of Praise used to come on a Sunday night, and you know if when Songs of Praise came on a Sunday night, you know, oh no, it's work tomorrow. And that's literally why I can't stand watching Songs of Praise, because it still has that emotive, it still has that emotive push for me in the fact that it's work tomorrow. Whereas now it's completely different, but it still lingers. So Songs of Praise comes on, or whatever triggers you off. Oh no, work tomorrow, and then you're not even at work, and you're getting stressed about work before then. So then you're back at work, and you're doing the home to work routine. You ever driven to your work, and actually thought about how did I get there?
You know, I've done that a few times over the year. For like,
how did I get there? How did I have no idea in my mind how I managed to get to my work or what happened in between. Because it becomes autopilot to you. And this is the home to work routine I talk about. And people do that 5 days a week. Sometimes some people do 6 and 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And then you get to Friday, and then guess what it is? It's live for the weekend. But society and the herd mentality wants to embrace that, and they want you to indoctrinate that as part and be part of the herd and be part of their tribe, so to speak, and live for the weekend. I refused to do that from a very early age in my 20s. Once I realised how I could set myself free, and once I had the vision about where I was going and what I was wanting to do, I actually turned my back on that. And it was very, very rare that I would live for the weekend, because the weekend to me was live for the weekend, yes, but the weekend is where I developed my wealth, because I had all the time I could invest in that rather than actually resting at the weekend. That was when my lifestyle was going to be created, because it It was the classic example we talked about. Rather than the person going out to the pub on a Sunday night, they would go and work at Diageo, and they would earn £200 for that shift just for one night, and yet they were spending 50, 60 quid in the pub. So they would be saving £3,000 a year with the 60 quid every week in terms of that, and then they would also be making an extra. I'd quickly do my calculator. 200 times 52, an extra £10,000 as well. So in essence, they would be £13,000 up just by doing that. And then if they took that money they were making on that one night and put it in an investment fund, and it grew over the next 20 years, it's like, my God, they would have £1 million, more or less, and they'd be able to retire just because they didn't go to the pub and actually worked on the Sunday night every week instead. That is where your lifestyle created. We just don't realize that and don't understand that and don't see that. And this is how you develop that wealth mindset. Let's talk about what is a wealth mindset. What is a mindset in the first place? Well, a mindset is actually a lens through which you can view the world. It's kind of like a pair of sunglasses. It can slightly alter what you see and how you think about it. Now, I've probably given you some examples previously. So mindsets are comprised of beliefs and perceptions and attitudes that inform your thoughts and decisions.
Right.
Different mindsets are really important, part of your toolkit for success. Like glasses, they can obscure your path or bring clarity to the road ahead. Cultivating a healthy, wealthy mindset will help you stick to your financial goals and the ways to increase your earning potential. Here's how you get focus, and here's a really good example of that. I talk about this all the time. Imagine when you buy a car that you think no one else has, and then all of a sudden you get on the road with that car, and then every second car that passes you on the other side is the same car. You're like, I thought nobody else had this car. I thought it'd be unique to me. And it's because you've now focused on that car, therefore you can see that car everywhere else. And that's kind of what a mindset is like. It's like putting these glasses on and having complete focus on the things that you've actually wanted to achieve in your goals. That's where that mindset comes from. That's how that's all about. Now, so what is a wealth mindset? Well, if you dig deeper into the stories of wealthy people, you'll notice that pattern. Rarely will a wealthy person be able to boil down their success to a single miraculous moment. Instead, they'll actually cite their mindset as the biggest reason for their wealth and their propensity. A wealth mindset is a set of beliefs, a set of habits, behaviors that separate the wealthy from the rest. Classic example, behaviors. When you get maybe a bonus from your work and you maybe get another £1,000, what's the first thing you think about? Do you think about, is it what can I spend it on? In other words, I'll go on a great holiday. Or do you think about what can I invest it in for the future? And then what have I got left to spend? Or how much can I invest and how much? And that's the two different distinctions. People that are not so wealthy, let's call them skint, poor, broke, tend to actually look at it and they go, what can I spend it on straight away? Whereas people that are wealthy and develop that wealthy mindset tend to think straight away about what can I invest it in? You know, can I put it into my pension, or can I put it in or what can I put away for the future that I'm doing each month anyway? So what additionally can I put away? And what else have I got to do? Classic example recently, the stock market has dropped by about 10%. I immediately phoned up my kids and goes, where's your pensions? And now they went, oh, I've put so-and-so in this year, I've put so-and-so in this year, I've put so-and-so in this year, the three of them. And I went, okay, I'm going to top each one of yours up to the maximum allowance for that year. So I'm going to transfer it to you right now. You can top up your pensions and that's you done. Because they've immediately got a 20% uplift from the tax advantage from that. So they've got an uplift straight away. Plus, when the stock market recovers, they'll get that 10% uplift as well to where it is. Because I know stock markets fluctuate all the time, but I know the stock market roughly sits around about 8,000 points now on a really good day. And that's how it will recover. And it'll probably go beyond that because it's been undervalued for a lot of years. It's been sat around about 7,500 for for a lot of years on and off for about the last 10 or 15 years. So it's got a long way to go in terms of if you're tracking that sort of the FTSE 100, for example, I'm talking about. So that's where the wealth mindset comes from. What can I invest in straight away, and what can I invest for the future for the people around about me, my family, and all the rest of it. That's how that comes from. So the good news is, with a little dedication, anyone can develop that mindset.
Yeah, it can be done. You just need to obviously know how to do it properly. And I think there's a lot of people that have maybe a poor mindset, and they don't even really realise that they do have a poor mindset.
I call it broke thinking.
Yeah, or people,
Broke
people that,
thinking.
yeah, and indeed people that have got a poor mindset, maybe thinking about earning money, they think earning money is wrong and that it could be done maybe without any effort, and that's not true, obviously.
Yep.
And that you'll climb out of the pit of debt. Obviously, a lot of people are in that situation, or that you just have some special sauce to take that takes to increase this cash flow that people talk about. But you really need to put the work in.
There's no special sauce. You know that yourself now. You'll know that there's no special sauce. There's no uniqueness about anybody that's made it. There's nothing unique about them at all, except they've developed that mindset and they've applied themselves in a particular area which they possibly love doing. Find something you love doing and then work out how to monetize it. You see that all the time. Look at Chris Rock. I was watching Chris Rock last night, and you see right at the end, right? He loves doing stand-up, okay? But you notice at the end with these people, Chris Rock wrote the show, he produced the show, he directed the show, he owns everything to do with the show, and then he gets Netflix to distribute it. He sells it to Netflix, by the way, and gets a commission every single time it's watched. That is wealth creation, and that is monetization about what he loves to do. And all he's doing is talking about his day-to-day things about, maybe his parents or maybe his interaction with Will Smith that he did last night. And, he talked about that as well. And I tell you what, he ripped the piss out of Will Smith, and he's made an absolute fortune out of that. He's turned that, what everybody thought would be a negative moment for him, and is raking it in because of that. This is his time to shine. He's taking that. Most people with this poor mindset would go, it's no fair. It's like, why me? It's like where he's gone, yeah, beauty, let's take advantage of this, and I'm going on the road with a show. And he's been perfect at it. He's a great example of how to turn adversity into opportunity.
Yeah, and people with this poor mindset, I mean, it can undermine your money goals and things that you do set, and will actively probably drive wealth away from you unless you can work to counteract that.
Yeah, you'll know how you drive wealth away from you. Here's how you know you're driving wealth away from you. Your skin. Nobody wants to give you a salary increase. You don't even think about you're worthy of a salary increase. These sort of things. You've no acquired any new skills. You just go in and do your job day to day. You work for a boss, but I tell you what, every time I worked for a boss, I knocked out of the park all the time. I made damn sure I was the best at what I ever did. So if it ever came to promotion or anything else, or maybe moving to another opportunity, I was always in the position to do that because I had a huge wealth of experience for that reason. So it wasn't just in what I'd done outside of my job, it benefited from having that wealth mindset. It actually benefited me immensely inside my career as well. So there was, there's reason behind the fact within a 10-year period how my meteoric rise from a trainee accountant to financial director.
Yeah.
Before I was 30. That was one of my goals. I wrote down, before I'm 30, I will be a financial director in industry. Not just I've started a limited company and now I'm the financial director and I'm the only employee. It's like, I'm a financial director. And it's like, aye, but you're the only employee. No, I'm talking about of a company, of a manufacturing company. That's what I wanted to be. And then my goal was to retire before I was 40. And then my other goal in my mind, my long-term goal was I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I retired at 65.
So you retired at what, 38?
38, yeah.
And you were a millionaire by
38.
There you go.
I was probably a millionaire before that, actually, but I
Just
never
never
really
really
counted
tallied
it
up, right?
because I knew my KPIs, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I never really focused on it because I knew the wealth would come as a result of getting my KPIs right, my key performance indicators. I knew what I needed to do, but I never had a plan about how these key performance indicators came about. I just knew when I set foot and I started off that, oh, I need to put that one in now as a key performance indicator. I need to monitor that one. I need to monitor this. I need to monitor that. I need to monitor my rent return. I need to monitor my return on capital. I need to monitor my net margin. I need to monitor my occupancy rate. I need to monitor, how all these different things, my leverage against the bank's income. I need to monitor all these KPIs because I know that will lead me. And I don't need to actually count my money and look at my net worth because I know if I get the KPIs right. This is what Willie McCall, I used to work for, my managing director in ESA Macintosh. Willie McCall used to say, and I used to go to Willie, should we not do this and should we not do that? He goes, no. Willie said, no, we don't do that. He says, see that report you give me every single week? He says, if I have the labour efficiency, the percentage right, and if I have the cost per hour labour right, he says, we will automatically make a profit.
Everything else will fall into place.
He says, if I get these two right every single week, he says, we will be minted at the end of the year. So he says, the only things I focus on are these efficiency targets because I know everything else happens as a result of that. And nothing else could happen for that reason. Hence the reason why I never looked and went, oh, I'll work out how much I've got and all the rest of it. The only ever time I actually worked out what I had was to actually then release money and go and buy more property and invest again. The rinse and repeat formula, the refurbish, the buy, refurbish, rent, and repeat it again. That's the recycled, how to recycle your cash. We talk about that quite a lot.
But
I
KPIs.
didn't like the rinse and repeat because it implies like we're laundering money
because
we're rinsing something. But it is a kind of saying that I've adopted.
Buy, revamp, rent, repeat.
Yeah, and other people actually got that into their mind as well about this rinse and repeat formula. But essentially, that's what it is. What you're doing is you're taking the same formula every single time, and you're washing off all the dirt in terms of that formula, all the bits that all the fat have creeped in about how you do things, and you're making that formula efficient again, and then you're running with it again, and then you're learning from what happened before. And then you're saying, okay, if I do it again, I'm going to make it more efficient this time than what I did the last time by doing this. And that's why we talk about rinse and just keep repeating it, because we're just getting rid of all the things that don't work from what you did previously and getting the things that do work every single time and making that formula so efficient every single time that it's a recipe for printing money. That's ultimately it. You just want something that's going to be print money, print money, print money, print money. And to me, it's pretty boring. But as Keith Cunningham said one day, who was Rich Dad, Jim, boring pays well. Literally to my face.
It does.
And I went, okay, I could get used to that. So he says, don't, because I'm a serial starter upper. I loved the thrill of starting up in business all the time and the excitement of doing it and everything like that. And he says, no, you don't want to be a serial starter upper. You want to run with it and you want to keep going with it. And he says, when you get bored, just understand it's not an opportunity to self-sabotage, so excitement's generated, and it's not an opportunity to go and start something else and to diversify. Here's that word, diversify your income. It's like, and jump into a different sphere. It's completely different from what you do. It's an opportunity to just take stock, plateau out, be bored for a while you just keep the money coming in, and then focus and then go again to the next level. Says that's normal business cycles and how you do things. Why do you think you have product? The product life of any product you get is it goes up. Look at X Factor, product life. X Factor when it first came out goes, yeah, everybody wants to be involved and watch X Factor. And then all of a sudden it plateaus out, everybody gets bored out and X Factor's no longer on the telly. And then they come up with Britain's Got Talent instead and take it for there. See that?
Yeah.
And then they come up with something else instead at the end of that. So they're no daft. Simon Cowell's no daft. He just comes up with something else which is close to what he's doing already and revamps it and reworks it and comes out with another product. So the product lifestyle moves up again. That's exactly how business works. Yeah. Boring pays well.
Well, that brings us on
What about
nicely.
it then? What do we do first of all?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that brings us on nicely to the next part. Hopefully, what we've just spoke about clarifies to people what mindset is, what wealth mindset is, and how much it actually matters. But yeah, I mean, the 4 points that we're going to talk about today is setting goals, being patient, and to preserve. And very few wealthy people become rich overnight, and building wealth is a slow process, and that's what people need to keep in mind.
Well, look at Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg didn't turn into a billionaire overnight. You saw the actual film where he was in there, and he was basically a student at college. And I tell you what, look at the amount of balls ups that they had in the beginning, that they just couldn't work out what they were doing. But he actually just started it as a method to actually, what was it? Just to rate girls at
It was
college.
like it
Yeah,
was a platform where they used
it
to
was a
go on.
platform just to rate girls. And look at what he's got now. Look at the £1 billion empire, the $1 billion empire that's been created, even possibly approaching trillion. From Facebook, out of somebody, it just thought, I'm going to do a platform just as a joke to rate girls at university. And then the two other brothers got involved, and then it kind of grew a bit more arms and legs and bigger. And then Sean Parker from Napstar, he got involved because he had been in that area before building Napstar offline. So he got involved in and that's how they ended up where it was, because it was a collaboration between everybody else as well. I mean, that's a really good point as well. So don't pin your hopes on achieving wealth on risky or get rich quick ventures. It takes hard work, dedication, and then you reap the benefits of your labor later on. It's the farmer mentality. You plant the seed, you sow the seed, you nurture the seed, you plant the seed, you sow the seed, you nurture the seed, then you reap the harvest. Then it's time to reap the harvest. It's the apple tree. Do you want the wee apple tree with a couple of apples, or do you want to nurture this into growing huge crops of apples every single year, waiting a couple of years for it? Investing all your time and effort in that to reap the rewards later on, bigger, greater rewards. That's the sort of things about setting goals. The average wealthy person spends 10 times more planning their finances than the average middle-class individual. I'll probably spend 100 more times.
It is so important to set goals, though, and set goals for how much you actually want to maybe save each month, or do you know what I mean? Whether you've got that, whether it's going to be a year or 5 years, and then so break it down. What are you going to save each month? More importantly, make sure that the plan you have to create for yourself is reasonable and that you could stick to it.
Yeah.
I've seen people set goals and think about setting targets and goals, and think, is that really, can you achieve that, or can you achieve close to that? Now, setting goals and targets and things, we speak about this quite a lot, Jim, and setting a target that's maybe feels unattainable, but it allows you then to work towards that and excel more than what you would if you had a lower one. So think about what your goals and your targets are going to be. The purpose of having maybe like a budget and things is to allow you to examine your own expenses and look for areas where you could cut back and eliminate costs and spending that you really don't have to cut. And then this process might require you to make some difficult choices. And I've done a few over the last couple of years. And I mean, we've been doing this wealth creation show for episode 63, so we're just over a year. And I've changed a lot of things, spending habits and things, because of what we spoke about and what we've covered in this.
Anybody, I'll guarantee you, Richard, anybody out there that says they can't save any money because they don't have any money is lying to themselves. You're lying to yourselves. If you say you can't save any money, you're lying to yourselves. I can guarantee you, I could look at your expenses right now and show you where you can save money straight away, every single time. I've done it. I've been there. I've been from nothing to where I am now. And I understand that process completely about how you have to do that and how you have to discipline yourself to do that. You just have to discipline yourself, or someone else is going to discipline you later on, like your bank manager.
Yeah. What's interesting, and we spoke about it at another show, I don't know if it was last week, or we spoke about the banking apps and how they break down your spending and where you're spending money. I went and had a wee look at mine, and it actually breaks it down into actually exactly where you spend money in certain shops and things. So that's quite good. If you've got banking app, look at it and see where your actual breakdown of spending is. If you're terrible at spending and you aren't that great, then aim to save about 10% of your next paycheck. Might feel like it's too much, then you have a higher chance of failing if you set that too high. So rather than failing and give up on your quest to become wealthy, set a goal maybe that's lower. Why not start with even just 1% instead of 10% saving? Start small, nurture the habit of saving, and then and scale it up over time.
Here's a real great one for you. So this is one I do. So my children, when they were born, I mean, Tony, I didn't realise till later on when Tony was about 5 or something, Ben and Scott were born. And then I realised you can actually invest in stakeholder pensions for children. And the government will give the child up to the basic rate tax back on their pension from birth, by the way. So you could put up to £8,880 in, the government will top it up to 3,600 from birth. They don't need to be working, your children, by the way. Now, the quicker you start a pension for your children, the more wealth they're going to compound at the end when they finally retire. And in the first 18 years, if you took the top up, just the first 18 years, they'll be millionaire by the time they retire. And you've only put the 2,880 in for the first 18 years. Now, what I did with Scott and Tony and Ben is I worked out that Scott, I could put £33 a month into Scott's pension. I could put £44 or £42 into Ben's pension. I could put 77 into Tony's because she's 5 years ahead of them. So I needed to get her to catch up with them universally. Now, this is quite an interesting one. I'll just do 33 times 12. It's £400 a year for Scott. Okay, so £400 multiplied by, we'll just say 20 for Scott. It comes to about £8,000 for Scott. Now, Scott says, yeah, invested in the same as mine, the FTSE 100 UK equity standard life, and Scott's pension fund is sitting at £60,000 right now.
That's amazing.
The average pension fund to retire on right now is 30 grand, and Scott's sitting at 50 or 60 grand, and the rest of them are like that as well. And yet I've only ever put away that amount every single time for them. So anybody that thinks it doesn't compound in wealth is delusional. You don't understand the dynamics of wealth and how it's created. That's how people make money. The greatest book I ever read, and I've read it over 50 times and I still love reading it, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You will never think about wealth creation the same and compounding ever again after reading that book. It'll blow your mind. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. By the way, we'll take questions at the end, so we're happy to do that. So you can keep asking questions all the way through, and we will cover them at the end. So Think and Grow Rich is a fantastic book to read, and that will set you off on your path. It's hard going for some people that don't have that mindset in the beginning, but eventually at some point in time, it will start, the penny will start to drop. Hence the reason I've read it so many times, and I've listened to it so many times as well. I still get something new out of it, depending on where my level is of thinking at that point in time. I could guarantee you Mark Zuckerberg or Richard Branson or anybody like that could read Think and Grow Rich again and still get something new about how to develop wealth out of that and what's relevant to them at their level. Because it's the basic fundamentals and principles that are there all the time. They work for everyone. And what he did was he interviewed 25 of the richest people in the world, the most successful people in the world at that point in time, like Walt Disney, Andrew Carnegie, the famous industrialist, all these different people he interviewed, Henry Ford, Edison, he interviewed them as well. And that's where Think and Grow Rich came from. It was all these people, they're pioneers in an industry that actually created all this wealth that we have today and they have today. That's what has distilled that knowledge into that book called Think and Grow Rich. So start small, nurture the habit, scale up over time. And that's why I was talking about, I'm putting the basic in. And then when I had enough, I would then say to the kids, right, okay, where are you right now with your pension? It's like, I'll top up the rest. And that's all I do, for that purpose.
And that brings us on to the next part, which is, like you say, I was talking about pensions and things, invest for the future today. So that's obviously the 4 points. The second point is invest for the future for today. And most people think that money won't make itself, or will it? as Jim's just demonstrated. Compound interest is a process of growth that allows you to invest your money to grow exponentially over time. And that was a really good example of that, Jim, with the pension fund there.
So compound interest actually works, and it occurs when you earn interest on interest.
Mm-hmm.
You earn each year your money is invested, you'll earn a percentage of interest on the total amount of money that's in there. And in the account, which includes the amount you've actually made last year as well. So you're making money on the money on the money. I talk about it as compounding. As I tell you, I tell you something that's not compounding. Is if you're in your normal job and you're not doing anything, you're not educating yourself, you're not doing anything else, and you just live in this job and you work in this job for the rest of your 40 years, okay? Because that's usually the dream that we're sold. Work for 40 years, retire on 2/3 of what you couldn't afford to live on in the first place, and you'll survive. That's what we're more or less told and taught in our society. But what compounding isn't is a job. Because when you get to a job, what happens is maybe you're paid 30, 35, 20, whatever it is. At the end of the year, your counter stops and it resets to zero again. And that's what I talk about. That is what your job is for your living. Okay? What you do outside of your job is for your lifestyle. And that's why it's important. So outside of your job is things like the savings that you make, the extra work that you do, you put aside, the education that you get. That's what develops your lifestyle later on. But that also gets you an increase in your job because you're more educated, you're higher educated, so therefore you can take on a different role in your position. And when there's maybe a different position going, a management position, they go straight away to you and go, great stuff, you've done an HND or an HNC in business studies, you did that, Richard. You're the next in line for promotion. You're the natural progression, not the person that goes, but I've been here for 20 years, I'm entitled to get that job. Okay, sorry, what have you done for your job? I've compounded 20 years worth of knowledge and experience. I went, well, no, really. If you look at your job, you've only done the same thing every single year as you did the first year. So the experience you've gained in your job is 1 year's worth, but you've done it for 20 years. That's why it's important to learn more, educate yourself more, get more wisdom, and even get more work off your boss. Because if you get to do their work, then you learn more about how they work and what their job entails, and therefore one day you'll maybe steal their job, and they'll get kicked out because you're better than them. I've done it. It was natural progression that I actually ended up in their position because of what I'd learned from them. But I didn't actually get their job. I went to another company and I was appointed. The person, it was the same level as them as a result. So compound interest works on the more or less the same, but in a monetary terms, it's you're making money on the money and you're compounding that as well. Another classic example of that is if you look at athletes. When an athlete first starts out, their muscle mass is not there, is it? And then what they do every single week, every single day, every single month, every single year is they build their muscle mass and they become more and more efficient in their body. But it doesn't actually end at the end of the year. They actually build on what they've got before. So you can see how that compounds and then that's why they become Usain Bolt after all these years, because they're compounding their health and their body and their machine that they have in order to do that. That's another way of thinking about compounding. So it's easy to think about that on money. The longer you allow your money to grow and everything else to grow, and you keep putting that investment in time and effort, the more money you'll make in return. I mean, look at in 1994, Bill Gates was worth $9.3 billion, to pluck a figure here. Fast forward to 2014, and he was worth $82 billion. 10 times, almost 10 times as much. And that was in the space of 20 years later. So 20 years later, and he went up 10 times in terms of his worth.
And a lot of people might think that was just down to Microsoft and things, but there's a lot more involved in that, Jim.
Aye, it was his investment manager, Michael Larson, that actually did that. His investment manager, it wasn't fueled on Microsoft sales or anything like that. He actually had an investment manager that looked after his money, Michael Larson, and he invested money in all the right things for him. And that's what a lot of high-profile stars do. Some of them, they're just delusional. They go to people and they just think they can do it themselves. They're not specialists in it at all. They don't get the right people to do it for them. There's no surprise. That's why I invest in a pension with Standard Life. I used to work with Standard Life years ago. I know their track record. I know they're really good at what they do, and they're a steady pair of hands at the helm. and I know they'll be around here for years to come. And that's another way of diversifying and actually having a proper investment manager looking after my money and doing what he did for that. So investing money is a fundamental strategy amongst wealthy people, and you don't have to do it alone. Learn how to invest or look for help. There are plenty of accomplished and trustworthy advisors out there. And the bottom line is letting all your savings sit idle in the bank is a big, big mistake. That's how you go down. You're in this game of life. You're either growing or you're contracting. There's no sitting still. It's just the way it is. Because if you're sitting still, inflation's going up, so you're contracting automatically. So you have to grow in terms of that, and your wealth has to grow as well, or you're just contracting. You're going back. And a lot of people talk about right now how my savings are eroding in the bank. Well, do something about it then. Don't just sit and talk about it. Do something about it.
Yeah, I was just like if some people's investment strategy is to save and leave their money in a savings account for years on end, then really your nest egg's it's going to be worth a lot less, especially like if you look at inflation and things recently, how that's increased. Then your money last year at this time is worth a lot less in the bank than it is this year at this time.
I'm not touting for business, but if you think like that and you're just happy for your money to sit in the bank, just give it to me and I'll give you a bit more. I'll give you a bit more than what you get in the bank, and then I'll make a fortune on it. That's the way you leverage your position, in that terms. I know I've had loads of people actually want me to do that in the past, but I've been reluctant to do it because there's a lot of compliance issues with that, and I'm not just that's just no me. Friends and family can do that, by the way, because there's no restriction on that for the Financial Conduct Authority, because then the difficulty of that is then people giving you advice down the pub about your income. You can actually take them for everything because they've given you the wrong advice. But that's why they give you an exemption for friends and family under the Financial Conduct Authority, for advising for wealth and creation. Candy bars, think about it. Sweeties used to be like, I remember when a Caramac, I've got 5 pence. What can I do with 5 pence? I could buy a Caramac bar. You can buy shit all now. Yeah. You can't buy anything now. It's like you will never be able. 5 pence will only get you far. 5 pence won't even get you a penny dainty now, like what you used to get years ago. You'd be hard pressed to buy anything if that's the case. The sustained increases in prices over time, the goods and services, it's inflation that just erodes everything, and it decreases your purchasing power of money as time goes by. If your investment strategy is to leave your money in savings accounts, like what you said, Richard, you're delusional. It's going to be worth less than what it is at the beginning of the year. Instead, weigh your investment options. Common methods of investing include your pensions.
Pension schemes, yeah.
Yeah, pension schemes and ISAs. But even ISAs now, with a personal savings allowance of £1,000 a year, are really not worth it anymore if it ties you into anything. Unless they're going to make a huge return in comparison, there's no worth it, because you can make £1,000 personal savings allowance anyway, under the government regulations. So retirement plans, and weigh your options and what you need to do. Retirement plans that you can invest in yourself and with, even through your employer. Here's a classic example.
Yeah.
We've got employment pensions, okay? Now, employment pensions aren't going to save you, by the way. You're screwed, because you know what happens is everybody's doing the same thing as you. John Paul Getty was one of the richest person in the world, and John Paul Getty said he was in oil and all the rest of it way back in the early 1900s. But John Paul Getty actually said, in order to be rich, you've got to observe the masses and do the exact opposite. So what everybody's doing right now is the government's forcing everybody into pensions, company pensions, and everybody's contributing the same amount based on their salary. So what happens is when all these people retire at the same time, because they will, in tranches, at the same time, they'll retire, they'll all have the same income. So what do you think is going to happen to all the prices? They'll all go up to the same value. Everybody will be buying the same things at the same time. By the way, that's exactly where you are right now. So you're putting money away for your future to be exactly where you are right now.
Yeah.
That's not going to work either. So this is why if your company is offering a top-up to your pension, they might pay additional over and above. Take advantage of it. Put more money into your pension. Because the object of the exercise is to be ahead of everybody else. Because if you're not ahead of everybody else, you're just in the mainstream the realms of getting what everybody else is getting. And it's observe the masses and do the exact opposite. So that's how you do it. Employers can match your contributions, as I says, and your money will continue to grow until you decide it's the golden years. There's more allowances coming in. The 40,000 minimum is going to 65,000. Not that anybody will ever be able to use it. You know, I might take advantage of it because I'm nearer in retirement age, and that's a classic example about how to leverage your position, because you'll get a higher return by putting that in, and you'll be able to generate more income. So when you do draw down, you'll be able to draw down 25% tax-free straight away of that money you've put in towards the end of your retirement, and you're getting an uplift from the tax man. Remember, contributions are made on a pre-tax basis, and the money you put in can reduce your taxable income for the year as well. If you're a high rate payer, you put a contribution into your pension, you'll actually be able to bring your tax down to a low rate payer. I do that every single year. I work that out every single year how much I need to put into my pension before I get to the end of the tax year, so it brings me down to the lower rate. So you pay, and remember as well, you pay income on the tax on the money you pull out from your pension. So just be aware of that. So you might not want to draw it straight away if you're earning money outside of that, exactly what I'm doing now. But you might want to draw the 25% out, then you can actually transfer it to a pension, and another type of pension, and then you're allowed to put in a certain amount, but not as much advantage as you had before in terms of the tax advantages you get. So there's lots of ways to leverage your income and use the government's money and the government's regulations in order to develop that mindset that you can seek out the best investments for your needs. After all, who doesn't want to make money while they sleep so you can grow rich? It's great. Most people say, oh, I'll pay for that lunch. And I went, well, by the time we've got to the end of this lunch, I've actually made money. I've made more money than the lunch cost. So, and that's passive. That's no me getting involved in anything. So it's all right. I'll pay for the lunch. In fact, somebody else is paying for the lunch because it's no me, because that's the money I made. That's a nice position to be in.
As
go on holiday, and when you come back from holiday, you've actually earned more wealth than you did before you went on holiday. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's a good position to be in.
So you just go on holiday more. That's the reason why I'm taking 5 holidays this year. What about never stop hustling? Is definitely the third one, isn't it?
Next one, never stop hustling. Yeah, I mean, I think now that obviously we've spoke about the foundations of growing your money and what you need to do that, it's time to then start thinking about where to really invest it in and think of the important things. If you want to maybe foster a wealth mindset, you'll need to minimize your time wasting activities. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of time, Jim, we've said it before, being busy for the sake of being busy, like watching television and scrolling through social media, chewing gum for the mind. We've spoke about that as well. And globally, people spend around 2 hours on social media sites every day. I would want to say more. I think it'll be more.
Genuinely, I was at the point I was spending about an hour on TikTok.
It's so easy.
It is extremely addictive. I was about spending an hour because I was showing my mum the other day. She's not on any social media platforms. I was showing how addictive it is. Even the Chinese don't let their children watch TikTok. It's banned in China, and they're the people that produced it, because they realise the distraction it causes in your society and how it dumbs the mind. Because even if you try to get out of it, it actually shows you another video, and you try to get out again, it actually shows you another video, and all the videos are designed to be addictive to holding on. So this is why I do not, and we're on TikTok for there, but I would rather be a creator than a consumer.
Yes.
This is what my mindset is. The last thing I want to watch is a reality television program, because I don't want to watch anybody else's life. I've got my own life to contend with enough as it is. And it's the classic example. Oh, did you see that? Tenants from hell, landlords from whatever it is. It's like, hey, I live that every day. I don't need to watch somebody else. It's like, my God, I do, this is what happens. So why do I need to watch anybody else? So as soon as a reality television come on, bang, switch the channel off. Get on to something else that's more. The things I watch the most, I don't invest in series, episodes anymore, because I've then got to work out, wait a minute, this is a series that I'm going to start. There's going to be 6 episodes in the very beginning, series 1. That's almost 6 hours of my time that I could spend efficiently on something else. And then I'm probably going to get addicted and I'll go into series 2. And that'll be another 12 episodes. That'll be another 12 hours of my time. So at some point, it says, forget it. It's like the butterfly effect. I've seen this before. Forget it. I'm no watching it for day one. And I'm no bothered if it affects anybody else. If you can't talk to anybody about, oh, did you see that episode? No, I didn't watch it. Oh, you're completely antisocial. I'm not bored. Bye. I'm away on holiday, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's
you're still working.
I think it's important to invest in things that are important. And instead of maybe scrolling through social media, like you say, concentrate on things like taking care of your body. That's a really important thing. If you aren't already focusing on maybe your mental health or your actual physical health, learn to practice maybe better health habits, such as eating healthy, sleeping better, exercising and things. You would be very surprised that eating healthy, sleeping properly, increasing your exercise and things, the profound difference it will make to you as a person and how you react on a daily basis to things and the success of things like your business or whatever you're trying to run.
I don't get the one I don't get now, Richard, and I'll tell you, most people will identify with this. When people say, I need to take a break from social media. What are you getting involved in social media that you need to take a break from it? Bloody hell, it's a program. It's like a television. You could just switch it off. So what is it you're doing on social media that you're actually feeling that position in that way that you're needing to take a break from it?
Or you're letting it drag you in too much.
That's
letting it take over.
Yeah. Stop playing your life out in somebody else's life. Stop taking part in somebody else's life. Run your own life first. Look after yourself first. You don't need to take a break from social media.
Just need to concentrate on the right things.
You need to concentrate on you and just, if somebody, fair enough. I'll chip in and somebody wants a bit of advice on something. This is what I would do. Great. If anybody ever gets to almost a format, and I saw a great one from Nancy Scollin one time, where somebody started arguing with her when she made a comment on one of my feeds and went, "Hey, there's no question time, you can." It's like, in other words, piss off. And I thought that's brilliant because that's exactly what it is. I'm not here to debate with anybody. It's my way, or forget it. Don't be on my feed. It's like, by the way, I'm going to unfriend you or ban and delete. I don't need that shit in my life. I don't need it up here. And that's how people should think. I don't need that in my life. Get rid of these people. They're toxic. They will drag you down to them. Classic is like, I'm not feeling very well. I'm just like, and all the mysterious posts that people put on. Don't jump to the bait. Yeah. They're just going. We've come to society. It looks for attention rather than love now. Mm-hmm. I'll say that again. We're at a society who look for attention more than they look for love. And this is the platforms that provide it. They just want the loves and the likes. They don't want to interact with anybody. They just want loves and likes all the time. There's people out there that just live on that. That's not the society you should be in. It should be engaging. You should be communicating with other people. You should be talking to other people. You should go for coffees and walks and, whatever it is you need to do in order to keep yourself sane. We are a species that need human connection with each other. Social media isn't that. Trust me. It's a learning platform. That's how I look at it. And an opportunity as well.
But it's important to take yourself away for that, create that extra time, use that time, like I say, whether it's on your physical or your mental well-being, concentrate on that, possibly use that time to practice negotiation skills. I mean, whether that's maybe negotiating your bills and things like, if you're trying to cut back and not spend as much, use that time to work on that. Maybe work on negotiating your salary or maybe your client contracts. Or wealthy people always come up on top when they're able to squeeze a little more money for themselves.
I'll tell you a classic of this is I spoke to Ben the other day, my son, and he was saying, I went for an interview. I said, how did you get on? He went, I was like, I got a wee bit flustered and all the rest of it. Okay. I says, Ben, the best thing you could do is go for loads of interviews. Just loads of interviews for anything and everything. He went, why would I need to do that? I says, because you'll get really good at being
Practice,
interviewed,
yeah.
and it'll become really normal to you, and you'll become comfortable with it, and you'll be able to rattle off just like that. You will never become nervous anymore. But you need to start somewhere. This is why when you talk about negotiation as well, it's like you've got to start somewhere. So just start playing about with it. But don't have any expectation of actually winning a negotiating position. Just actually experiment with it. You never know, you might get some wee wins now and again. And I talk about that, don't I? I say, look, have fun with people. You know, when you, I say that to you, Richard, and I say that to the rest of the team. When people are throwing objections at you, even though you're not getting the business, use it a perfect opportunity to learn and actually hone and develop your skills of handling objections. That's the best way to do it. So you've come away with something positive of that experience and that interaction with someone, and you've learned something new. And every single time that compounds. See that compound word again?
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're creating this extra time and maybe you're in a position where you're trying to save and things, like I say, use the time for skills and things, but also have a bit of a side hustle. I mean, all these hours that you've used, maybe scrolling through social media things, have a side hustle. Do something that maybe earns you a little bit extra cash. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with these hours that could earn you extra cash, and
I've
that'll
not got any
ultimately,
education. I don't know what to do or the rest of it. Just go out and clean something then.
yeah, just do something that, and that's
Be a
extra
side
cash for
hustle.
you to then
Do
invest.
a part-time cleaner and do a part-time cleaner. You know the things that, you know, in Buckhaven of all places, it's like Buckhaven of all places, there's an old man that was there and he passed away and he had kept himself all these years. And he all he ever did was he was a janitor at the local school. Gary says OnlyFans.
Okay,
Yeah.
so laughing.
You can do OnlyFans as well. It's like, okay. I believe it or not, Gary, I actually looked at it and I thought, I wonder if I could. There's people there putting their feet on OnlyFans and getting paid for it.
I know.
Just their feet, nothing
It's
else.
crazy the
Their
things you
hands.
could make money doing.
It's like, my God, there's people out there that will pay money for that. It's like, anyway, I digress. Okay,
Yeah.
there's other preferred websites as well apart from OnlyFans. But what I was saying, you know, this guy, he was just a janitor all his life, and when he passed away, he had left 1.7 million. And all he had done his whole life, his sister did the same thing, and this is how we know the story. All he had done was taking a wee bit of his income every single time and kept investing it and never touching it. And he had 1.7 million when he actually passed away. Now, to me, that's no success, by the way, having 1.7 million, because you could have done it,
made that a lot more.
passed it on, or done something with it, or passed it on to the next generation in a tax efficient manner. Because 1.7 million, you get nailed for inheritance tax. But the very fact is, this is a janitor. It's never done anything else out all his life. He's just saved properly and invested for his future 1.7 million, because he'd done it over about 40 or 50 years. It can be easily done, and this is and even by things like share your car with someone else and pay for the petrol instead of having a car to get into work. You know, my friend,
you could be a delivery driver. You could do. There's lots of things.
Ian, we were talking about this morning when we were going around. Ian's a tutor, and we were talking about he's got classes now, so he can leverage his position with his time
online,
and earn more money out of the classes online rather than just one-to-one bespoke individuals. And we've talked about this as well about, you know, so what you're going to do when somebody definitely wants your time. And he says, I'm not really sure. I says, well, what you do is you take the amount it is with that time for the class and you say, that's what you're going to have to pay me for that time if you want one-to-one with your child. He went, I never thought it like that. I says, well, they can only say no, and then you could run a class with that time anyway, because your time is now limited. It's no the fact that you've got an abundance of time now. So why would you not just put the price up? I learned that in the early days when I was asked to come back to work with my company. Oh, could you come back to work with us? When I left Macintosh at 38 and retired, financially free, they begged me to come back on a subcontract basis because it was just for a project for 3 months. And I went, I'm not really want to come back. God, I'm free. I'm free. I'm in the wild. I'm free. Woohoo! But then I says, I tell you what I'll do, and I learned a lesson from someone else. He says, just come up with a ridiculous number per hour and see what, and they can only say no. And what are you bored about? And so I came up with a ridiculous number per hour, and they went, okay. Holy shit! You're joking. You're going to pay me 3 times what I've got paid. And it's like, yeah, okay, we're fine to do that. But okay. Now that's when you realise what your true worth is and you begin to get a feeling for it. So find your niche you're passionate about, and don't even something that doesn't even feel like work. Learn new skills in the areas that you're interested in too. You never know when your skill learned today will become an opportunity for later on down the line. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. It might be further down the line that I do use this platform now and again. I do. You know, I've done about 4,000 videos, and I do live because I love live, because it gets me in the mindset. I can think on my feet. So when people say, "How on earth do you rattle that off just like that?" Well, I started 4,000 videos ago, and I learned that, developed that skill over time.
Like you're saying, it's got about the interview thing. You've become so
Finally, maintain a positive attitude. What laws of attraction, Richard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard of the laws of attraction, or the saying laws of attraction. And the law of attraction, states that like attracts like. And in other words, our thoughts and actions attract similar thoughts and actions. So people that are like each other and operate the same will attract.
Tribe,
Yes.
herd mentality, and tribe. You end up being in the tribe. This is why people, when you've got workshops on wealth creation and the rest of it, they all get in the same room together. Now, we all think like each other. We should all be a part of each other. And then they sell you a course because they say, if you're in with that, in with these people, it'll benefit your mental thinking, and you'll grow bigger and all the rest of it. But that's them developing. That's these people monetizing that by developing a tribe to follow them. Look at the little monsters for Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
That's a classic example of a tribe. So the Little Monsters for Lady Gaga, right? The laws of attraction states that attracts like, okay? In other words, our thoughts and actions attract similar thoughts and actions. If you think positive thoughts, positive things will happen. If you think about wealth creation, you will bring more of your wealth into your life. Now, you could think about it, but you actually need to do something about it as well. That's probably one of the most important things. You must foster positive thoughts of wealth and abundance. If you dwell on the negative, you'll get discouraged and give up on your dreams. And that's why it's important to have a dream as well, because if you don't have anything to focus on, when tough times come along, tough people just don't last because they don't know where they're focused on, and they don't know where they're going. That's why you need to know where you're going. You need to understand where you're going. You need to have that. You need to have that. What do I want in the short term? What do I want in the medium term? What do I want in the long term? If you don't have it now, don't try to get it perfect before you start. Just go and do something to get it started. I was always, there needs to be a place for everything before I do anything. I need to start somewhere. You know, it's like, I have to have it perfect before I start. You've fallen foul of this, Richard. You know that. Because you've learned by my mistakes as well. But this is what I used to tell my mentors. But I need to have this perfect before I start. I need to know where I'm doing and what I'm doing and all the rest of it. And I need to know how that goes and where this fits and where that fits. And it's like, oh my God, I can't do anything because it's not perfect. And then my mentors just said, look, Jim, just pick up the phone and phone someone.
Yeah.
That's where you start. And then you find out for the conversation about what you need to do next. And that's what I did. I just took it in blind faith and went on with it. So start by erasing negative thoughts in your mind. Replace them with thoughts like, I will be wealthy. I am good enough. I used to use the phrase every single time. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better.
Yeah.
And I used to say that to myself religiously when in the mirror. Every time I got up in the morning, before I started anything, I looked in the mirror and I said, every day and every way, I'm getting better and better, even though I felt like shit.
Yeah, that's just like it's basically affirmations, and affirmations of things is quite an Americanized thing, but I mean it really has a lot of impact on you. I think being the positive thinking and affirmations.
I felt a weight in my mind. I felt depression. I felt ill. I felt I couldn't do this, but I just blind faith. I looked in the mirror and said, every way and every day, I'm getting better and better. And I just looked at myself in the eye every single time. And it just goes, Jim, you know what? You're the best. You're absolutely brilliant, Jim. That's the type of things I used to say. I used to look at myself in the mirror and used to look at my face and look at all the patterns of my face and everything like that. And I used to look at all these things and I go, Jim, you're just the best. You are the best at this. You will excel at this because every day and every way you're getting better and better. And I used to talk to myself in the third person sometimes and tell myself I'm fantastic. That's the type of thing. I will succeed. That's what you tell yourself. Will. Not can, will. That's the most important. The road to wealth isn't easy, but it won't be any easier but it won't be any easier if you start creating potholes for yourself.
Yeah.
You need to be completely sold in the idea of your success. And that's when you have to reinforce it every single day with yourself. The affirmations, the writing it down, the looking at what you need to, how you need to achieve and what you need to do to get there.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to develop that wealth mindset, Richard?
Yeah, and that's the question, and people will ask that question. So how long does it take to create this kind of wealth mindset that we've spoke about on the show today? And I think the best part of developing a wealth mindset is that you could start immediately. You could start anytime you want, and by education and strategizing, and then ultimately the action, putting it into action, and a call to action on that is how you do that. The key is to start small, tackle things maybe in bite-size, small portions, with goals. Obviously, initially small goals, bite-size. Aim for them. Like compound interest, these small investments will build up over time
I
and
actually
further your progress.
I still put it in my phone to this day, Richard. I put tasks in my phone. You don't see them because it's in my Google Diary, but it's not. It's just a task, and I have things like phone so and so, house prices index to do, and just things like that. And when you go into the task, you actually get the wee tick button to mark as complete, and see the wee dopamine hit that you get just out of hitting that button, say mark as complete.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like we're going back to the old list in your book, where you kept a list in your book of, you know, the tasks about what you needed to do, and you've written it down.
Love that you and I have got the same book.
There you go. And then you just tick it as you go. I've done that one, I've done this one, I've done that one. There's nothing more satisfying to your mental state of mind, and the thought process of you going forward is the fact that you're ticking off that list to say you've done it. And it's just a wee achievement. It could be something as simple as I've made the tea, I've cleaned my desk, I've washed the dishes, I've taken the bins out. You know, try and get that into your mindset of your business and what you're doing right now, and develop that. And once you get into this, it's getting into that flow of the natural progression. I mean, somebody said to me the day, you go back to running. I'm like, well, actually, I'm going to have to start from scratch in my mind, because I've been out at it for so long with injuries. It's actually now I discipline myself every single week to swim in the swimming pool a mile at least every single week in the swimming pool, and I will not give that up, because I know that that's what keeps me ahead of the game. But I now have to get that discipline back for the running and walking, more or less, in the very beginning. And then I also now have to get that discipline back after I built up my muscles, because my muscles have decayed to nothing now. They're back to normal, just walking. For cycling as well now. I could still do a sprint triathlon. I could never do a standard. I'll be able to do a sprint triathlon quite normally, because I know I can do a sprint triathlon. It will take me a wee bit more time than usual, but I know I can do it. But I would love to do it a bit better, and I'd love to go out running again and all the rest of it. But this is going to take another process. About exactly what we've done here is about developing this same sort of mindset, but for running and for cycling.
Yeah, in order to achieve your goal. And like we just said there, break it down, have small bite-sized goals, and within months and weeks or even days, your wealth goals will be on the fast track to your success. And that's how you do it. Don't try
making
and
it happen. Just for finalising on here, and then we'll go to the questions on the platforms. There's no simple formula for wealth. That's the reality. Newsflash. It's not going to come at you just that easy. Maybe you'll have a brilliant idea and see it through. Maybe you'll start a business with a great co-founder. Maybe, like most of us, you'll work hard and you'll save smart and invest your way into riches. Because I tell you what, that's how most people will make their money. They'll work hard, they'll save smart, and they'll invest for their future. At the end of the day, everyone has to take the route that's right for them, We'll all have different paths of success and failure. It's just the way that it's just the cards that you're dealt. Play the hand of the cards that you're dealt. People will lie down and they'll say, it's not fair how they've got it like this and I've got it like that, and yet I'm exactly like them. Hey, newsflash, you just have to play the cards that you're dealt and make the best of the hand that you've got. That's all it comes down to. For those that make it to the end, will be the individuals who have been able to develop and stick to that wealth mindset. There will be huge riches at the end for this for you. If you stick to this later on, I'll guarantee you that. I could more or less write a guarantee out of that. It will be if you stick to that. I used to have a lot of people in the early days when we were in another business, network marketing, and they used to say, it never worked for me. And my response to that was, you obviously didn't work it then. Because most people, when they're told what to do, they have selective listening and they don't listen to everything. So when they're told to bake a cake, all of a sudden the egg isn't included. Because I didn't realize, well, how do you think the cake's going to turn out the same then as what I did? But that's how people are, the selective listen. And they leave the bits out that are uncomfortable for them. They don't, I don't want to do that. It's too uncomfortable for me. That's how people develop a poor mindset, because they don't force themselves, they don't push themselves to do that.
And that's us.
Yeah. Like, let's go to remarks or questions or whatever it is.
Just to this end, we've got Gary and Perry. Thanks, Gary, for joining and your comments. And Perry jumped in on this end as well.
I think I answered the bit, how do you start with no money? Well, I started with no money. Yeah. Watch all the wealth creation shows on our YouTube channel, Five Properties TV or Jim Parker. You'll see there a wealth creation show that, you know, I tell my whole story, Diary of a Property Investor, over about 6 series, from the very beginning, from my birth basically to where I am right now.
I think it was actually 7 episodes we've done with your property.
Yeah, me and the missus are looking to buy a property. When would you recommend is the best time to buy? If you're looking to buy now, because if it's long term, it doesn't make any difference. All you're doing at this point in time, if you're buying a property together, then all you're doing is putting yourself on the property ladder, so you have a trading position to trade from your property at the same price to the next property you buy. That's how that works. If you're not on that property ladder, then you run the risk that property prices could go up or property prices could come down, and then therefore you're kind of gambling at that point in time. So hopefully that's giving you the answer to that one. Just been going around in circles, and every month I want to break the cycle. Andy, you know how to break the cycle. You just maybe don't want to do the uncomfortable things to do it. It's the baking the cake. You're selecting what you want to put in it. Just do everything we've said, and it'll work for you.
Gary's just jumping.
If you're going around the circles all the time, you might find that at one point you'll actually break through, just like we talked about the boulder in the stream.
No, it's just Gary's jumped in there, obviously watching this every week, so non-negotiable for him. But I love how he's racked up 50k on his Peloton while he does it.
Yeah, there you go. So Gary's making a really efficient use of his time, because he's creating his health, he's benefiting his health by 50 kilometers on his Peloton at the same time he's watching this. That is completely productive. That is so efficient. Gold star, Gary. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's the type of things I would do. That's why I've got a TV in the bathroom, because I'll sit and watch Diary of a CEO and some of the property investors while I'm actually getting washed at the same time. And I'll be sitting on my phone as well at the same time, actually just updating profile and answering questions and stuff like that as well, while I'm getting washed. 3 things at once. If having a buy-to-let and limited company, do you need to put deposit from tenant? Okay. If having buy-to-let and limited company, do you need to put deposit from tenant in deposit scheme? Yes. Yes.
Always.
That. Regardless, if there's a custodial scheme in your country, whether it's England, Scotland, or whatever, a deposit has to be done that. Well, here's Barry from Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Barry, if you've hung on, I've got any answers for me about no tenant contracts or declaring revenue? Yeah, okay. Barry, we've been over this before. Can I buy a house with crypto? Yes, you can. What do you think about having title deeds as NFTs? I've not even explored that, to be honest. But the reality is, an NFT title deeds, I'm not really sure if it's just exactly the same thing. And it's just because you've got title deeds and you transfer them to another person anyway for a monetary value. It's not, NFTs is not something I'd want to get involved in because I stick to my core competence. Stick to your knitting and eat your own cooking.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing. Inspired for success. Hey, yep, hey. Clever guys. Yeah. Well, clever. I wouldn't say I'm clever. Inspired for success is a real. Thank you very much for saying that. You know, I'm humbled by it more than lightly. It's not clever. It's just acquiring the right knowledge.
I was going to say it's more knowledge than it is.
And it's standing on the shoulders of giants that came before us. Because if these people I've learned from hadn't been there, then I probably wouldn't be where I am.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a compliment to you, Richard. Is that Gary Tank Commander speaking to you? How can you leverage the money in my property to get ahead in life? Leverage your money in your property. Classic example, leverage your money in your property is if you've got excess equity, in other words, that you could borrow from your property, and it would allow you to buy another property as a deposit, then that's how you'd leverage your income and your wealth. Because then what happens is, if you have a property you've got just now, it could double in value. But the reality is, if you're living in it, you're going to trade it for another property, which will double in value anyway. The only way you can create money in property is actually to have property outside of your normal day-to-day property that you live in. And that's where it makes money. So if I can buy a property for £100,000 and I'm having to put 25,000 down as a deposit, that's a simple way of doing it. I've got 25,000 in, but I've actually got a £100,000 property, which will actually double in the next 10 to 20 years. So on that 25,000 I've got in the next 10 to 20 years, if that doubles, I'm actually making £100,000 on it. Plus the fact if I've got it rented, I'll be making the rent on it as well. Now, if it doubles quicker, then potentially you could actually take a bit more equity out of that and buy another property and actually do exactly the same thing again. So see how the duplication formula works. We've explained it in other shows before. If you go onto Five Properties TV and look for the Wealth Creation Show playlist on Five Properties TV on YouTube, it's all in there. Huge bank of knowledge and information, masterclass in wealth creation. Barry says, I love this advice. Would love to have a chat in the pub talking non-financial advice. Yeah, I do that as well, actually. I did actually do, in order to do that, because we did it in lockdown, I did a show called the Sunday Slot.
Yeah.
And the Sunday Slot was basically talking to people from different backgrounds about how they achieved their success in their field and actually broadcast at the same time. And that was kind of the same thing that you're talking about now. Somebody said, what's happening here? Well, you've missed it. Good story. Thank you very much. Do you have one-to-one mentorships for Robbie? Robbie, yes. We kind of have one-to-one mentorships, but we don't actually charge people money for this. Richard, who you'll not see here, because he's on every other channel. We can't do a dual list on TikTok now, because he's not got 1,000 followers yet.
Well, what am I? I'll check the name.
What's your TikTok handle, Richard, so we can encourage people to follow you?
It's Five Properties Lettings.
So Five Properties Lettings on TikTok. If you follow that, at some point in time when Richard gets over 1,000 followers, he'll be able to be on a joint TikTok broadcast with me. And you'll see
764 at the moment.
It's 764 now. So if you do that on TikTok, that'd be fantastic to get him up so he can broadcast and come on the show with me live on that TikTok platform. But what I would say to you is one-to-one mentorships. We do an end of month on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock, a private Zoom session for people that either want to get started or any point in their journey of wealth creation or primarily property investment. And even if it's just try to find out for the first time what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, you're more than welcome to join that, but you need to message Richard because Richard runs that.
Of got a few. I mean, we do a limited number each time. We try and keep it to about 5.
We try and keep it to about 5 because it's easily manageable and we can stick with these people throughout their journey. But if we do get more people, then we'll create another group, and then they'll start at a different journey in their time, and then that'll just happen over time. But we'll keep doing that.
I've got a few new members joining this month.
Barry, thank you very much. You just became a top viewer, apparently, according to TikTok, and he sent a lightning bolt. Thank you very much. I think that's the first time I've had something for somebody. I've got to be like, kudos to you, Barry. That's the first time anybody on TikTok has given me anything. So a lightning bolt's the best I can have. Fantastic. Is this live about to-do lists? I'm not really sure what that means. Wealth and property, investments, bro. How to better yourself? Yep. Build a property portfolio. Yep. I got that. Oh, Barry Dodge has given me another gift. I'm not dancing for you, by the way, Barry. I'm not doing anything on like OnlyFans or that. That's about what the live's about. Yep, absolutely. Robbie says people pay for what he's talking about on this live. He's doing it for nothing. Yeah. And sometimes, often, people can say, well, you know, if it's free, it's kind of, if he's doing it for nothing, his advice is probably worth that to you. Not in this case. I've got a track record. Most people know that anyway. I'm probably, track record wise, I'm probably one of the oldest property investors in the whole of the UK in terms of the time frame I've been in this for the last 30 years as a property investor and landlord. And as well, I was one of the instrumental people in the National Landlord Association at the beginning. I was the chief executive for Scotland for about 10 years and sat in the housing partnership with Fife Council on strategic housing policy on a voluntary basis. So, you know, my track record speaks for itself, I would say, more than anything. So, yeah, you're probably right. And Robbie says, do you do one-to-one mentorships? Yeah, hopefully I've just answered that. Are you single? It's like, no, I'm married. and I've got no inclination for anything else. So, generally, by the way, I need to sort out my things and make more. Absolutely, Barry, you do. And hopefully this is going to say that. Robbie says, I was paying 140 a month for courses on property investment and got nowhere, running around in circles. And he said, can I message Richard about this on the Zoom call? Yeah, you can message my email. Richard's email is richard.cook@fifeproperties.co.uk. So richard.cook@fifeproperties.co.uk. I think we can learn from the same wise people. Absolutely. And Barry sent me a few more stuff. Thank you very much, Barry. I appreciate that. And you have to show your worth first. Absolutely. Inspired for success. You have to show your worth first. Yeah. I think for me, just to cover that, inspire for success. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean about having to show your worth. It's like, you know, there's people out there that genuinely turn around and actually have the Instagram look, what I talk about. And it's like they've got their family in their robes sitting on the bed all together with a perfect photograph and saying, life's all about family, and in that perfect pose. And yet they've no got two halfpennies to rub together. They're skint. And everything's leased and borrowed, and they don't have anything at all. That's probably what you're talking about. You have to show your worth first. I really don't need to show my worth because I'm not doing this for anything other than helping other people. I could happily sit on the beach for the rest of my life and go, another pina colada, please, and still earn money regardless. So I've kind of got to that situation where I'm happy with that. So do you think you could help with my situation, Barry? Yep. Okay. Just message Richard direct, richard.cook@fifeproperties.co.uk. Yeah, absolutely. Inspired for success, as I used to see a girl from Fife. She was a top lass. Yeah, that's most Fifers. Everybody in Fife's top. And that's it. I don't see anything on Instagram. And we've got
done our
Gary had said that there. That's us.
Yeah.
Done.
Good.
Finished.
And I think that I hope that we've covered enough on mindset to help people today in terms of maybe
It's
thinking.
usually an hour long.
Yeah, it's usually.
So we've
But
got-
exactly what wealth mindset is and what mindset is in general, and how it has a profound effect on what you do and getting yourself out the right mindset.
Mhm.
Jim and I will be back next Monday, 12:30 as usual, and
Yep.
you can catch us all then. And until then, that's us.
Okay, bye-bye for now.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye to Insta.